They don't care deeply about the people that they claim to love because they don't know what intimate love involves. Intimate love involves wanting the best for the person you love, even if that means something you don't want to do.
If you've ever heard the words, I'm changing, I'm working on myself, and you wanted to believe your husband, you wanted to believe your abusive partner, this episode is for you. Because this isn't really about whether or not they can change. It's about how they pretend to change, the performative change, the version of them that sort of looks like remorse, and they're going to therapy and they seem self-aware, but it really just resets the cycle of control. My guest today is Dr. Elinor Greenberg, licensed psychologist and author of Borderline Narcissistic and Schizoid Adaptations, The Pursuit of Love, Admiration, and Safety. She's also an international expert who has spent over 5 decades now, it feels like, teaching and treating narcissistic personality adaptations. And she's trained psychotherapists around the world how to recognize it, how to diagnose, how to treat it. So she has a real amazing way of kind of cutting through the noise. So let's talk today about what performative change really looks like. So I want to ask the sort of like first question to you. When you hear a client say he's changing, or I hope that he's changing, what comes to mind for you?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, if he's not currently in therapy with an acknowledged expert in personality disorders who specialized for a minimum of 3 years in narcissistic personality disorder at a place and training that certified that person to treat narcissistic personality disorder, it's a waste of time and money.
Oof.
And experts do not usually take insurance, and they charge 3 times what insurance pays at best. And you pay out of pocket for it. And there's very few places in the United States that train people and systems that are acknowledged to successfully train people in the treatment of narcissistic personality disorder. And the 2 that are mainly focused on this are the object relations training systems, a theoretical approach that with a very unfortunate name, don't you think?
Yeah.
And the self-psychologist. So if you've never heard of them, and your husband says he's going to a therapist and they are not trained in self-psychology treatment of narcissism, there might be 100 people in America good enough to treat him.
Wow. That's a very small number. Most of the time, what I hear is he's in therapy and he's seeing your sort of average psychotherapist.
I'm going to tell you why even going to one of the experts can be a waste of time for you. There's 2 main object relations theorists whose systems are used in the United States. One is Otto Kernberg, the other is James F. Masterson. I went to see Otto Kernberg lecture and teach, and he was just too tough for my clients. He was dealing with very disturbed people. I'm dealing with high-functioning people who want to come for private therapy. Mostly they have good jobs. Most of the people with narcissistic personality disorder that I see are successful at work, but they're not successful in their intimate relationships, and they blame other people for their lack of success. And they try over and over again. So I have a basic set of rules right now. I don't take a narcissist under 50, usually, because before 50, they are arrogant and they think the next woman, the next job, the next promotion, the next time you take them back will fix all their problems. Getting you pregnant will fix their problems. Something will fix their problems. It's not going to. Now, I'll explain to you why. Where did you learn to drive?
Canada.
What side of the road do you drive on in Canada?
The right side.
That's right. So you can come to America and drive. What happens if you go to the UK or Bermuda? Do you drive there?
I actually was in England last year. My mom drove. Not me. Absolutely not.
Now, why not? It's the same reason as why they can't go to those therapists. They just can't talk themselves out of being a narcissist. You know what side of the road you drive on in England. You know that you have to do everything the opposite. Does that help you?
No.
What do you
Not
have
at
to
all.
do if you want to drive in the UK?
Get a driver's license, practice, hire the right person to teach me, change my brain. I don't know. I would always be thinking about this side. So it would be hard for me to
Exactly.
shift.
Now, let's imagine that you play guitar and you decide to take up tuba. Now, let's imagine your first language is English. So if you want to learn French, what do you have to do? Do you just say, well, I know that they speak it differently, so from today on, I'm going to speak French? Is that going to help you?
No,
What
you
do
gotta
you
take
do?
lessons. Yeah, hire someone, take lessons.
And do they have to know French and how to teach French?
Specifically, yes, they do.
And they have to give you homework?
Oh, yeah.
And how many years do you expect it to be before you're fluent in French or tuba or driving in the UK? They're just brain-based neuronal networks that have to connect in your brain. What you have to do is you have to inhibit to learn something new, like driving. You have to inhibit the old response, which means you have to become aware of the old responses. So you have to bring them into awareness. Then you have to have already a substitute response learned. Your brain does not care about a lot of stuff. It's designed to form neuronal networks. When you repeat something, that network of the things, the first time you do it, it's very awkward, like driving in the UK on the other side. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be in danger. You want to do it someplace safe. You want a lot of practice. Now, the next time you're in the situation, you're going to have to remember to not do the thing that you do in Toronto and to substitute the other. Now, this is going to eventually, with hundreds and hundreds of repetitions of inhibiting the old response successfully and substituting the new one, eventually the new neuronal networks get stronger than the old one that's been degraded. At that point, what's called neuronal Darwinism kicks in. Your brain essentially uses whatever is most repeated, whether it's useful or not in this situation. Its automatic response is unconscious. So when you tell me you're a narcissist, and let's assume he is a narcissist for a minute. Let's assume you're correct and he has narcissistic personality disorder, because that's the easiest thing to assume here. Because whatever he has, narcissistic trait, narcissistic coping mechanisms, it is mediated by a neuronal network in his brain. And as Dr. Edelman said, the one that shows up is your most practiced one. You've been practicing narcissistic responses since before the age of 10. The personality is formed before 5, and post 5, you get Oedipal type responses, according to Freud. Not this intense one-on-one disturbance in intimacy. So we know that you've been practicing this your entire life. It feels like you. That's why it feels like you. It's your natural response. You've been doing it. And the new response is going to feel fake and false, but you're going to have to practice it anyway. And not only are you going to have to practice it, you're going to have to inhibit the other one. And you're going to have to do it while being triggered by something that your wife said, because research has demonstrated what every person in a relationship with a narcissist already knows. They are hypersensitive to minor slights and criticisms, and they get triggered where other people just pass it, it's not a problem. So now we have a hypersensitive person who you know very well, you're married to them or you're going with them, and he comes to you and he says, I'm going to change. And you say, great, what's your plan? And he says, I'll find a therapist, my insurance will pay for it. Is this a good plan, likely to work?
No, never. Oh, yeah. That's superiority right there. Absolutely. I sense I'm not that I deal with narcissists directly, but the stories that I hear are all rooted in I deserve to be able to treat you this way. I get to do this and I am the victim. They so believe that. So the ones that are in therapy are seeing an average therapist and, doing talk therapy and come home and say things like, my therapist thinks that you're the narcissist. We hear that a lot.
Yes, and I'll tell you something even worse. And this is something that the women will really understand. Couple therapy or talking to family or friends. Living with a narcissist, and I don't care if you have the nicest one in the world, because some of the guys I've treated underneath it all, when I take off their uniform of narcissism, when they take off all their narcissistic defenses, I find a very vulnerable. I can take who I want now. I had a waiting list. I had exhibitionist narcissists, successful business and wanting to compete and have a bidding war for my services to become less narcissistic so they could get back with their wife who would kick them out. So I had a batch of guys all kicked out, and their children weren't speaking to them, and all the sons were taking the wife's side. That's the
Wow.
situation in my clients, because I could pick and choose, and these guys were all, because I knew I wanted to start a different version of my therapy that required a 5-year commitment and payment in advance for each session. And I wasn't taking insurance because insurance wasn't going to pay the amount that I was going to charge to do this with them. Because as you already know from living with a narcissist, this is highly unpleasant. What do narcissists want to do when they want to feel good? They want to give you advice if they're an exhibitionist. They want to tell you how to better run your life and pick out all the things you're doing wrong that you could improve. Do they ever pick out one of their things and saying, would you help me improve this?
No, they're
They pick out
perfect.
your things. Do they
Yes.
isolate you from people who are supportive of you? Do they try and take over control over your life if they're at all that type? Does
Mhm.
it slowly happen like a frog in hot water?
Yes. Yeah, you don't even
And
realize.
one day you find yourself broken, exhausted. The reason I get asked seriously when I first went on Quora, are they possessed by demons? Are they evil?
I get
No,
asked that every day.
no, they're not. They are small children that adapted to a situation. And since then, the software in their brain took in what they learned as a small child and has not been consciously updated ever. So they've updated the phones, they've updated their computer. Sometimes they've updated their friends, their girlfriends, their wives for newer models. And they never updated their own thinking that was set before they were a teenager.
That's so true. You're reminding me so much of something that I've heard Dr. Peter Salerno once say, that narcissists see the only problem in the relationship as that thing that you keep talking about. If you would just stop talking, the problem would go away. This made up issue would just go away if you would just, and it's really like the compliance, right? They want you to just do it their way, accept that they're right, and then everything will be fine. Arguably, though, it won't be fine because they also like to pick fights constantly, but they seem to want to convince other people to just do it their way and then everything will be okay. And I don't think that's true at all.
Yes. And would you want to then spend thousands of dollars studying how to spend your days treating those people where they say that to you about you? And you have to find out how to get past the devaluing defenses and the blame and the lack of appreciation for everything you're trying to do for them, because they'll quit in the middle of therapy the moment you don't do the thing. And they bully their therapist too. They attempt to bully us. And if
Yeah.
we don't accept the bullying, they quit on us the same way they quit on you after being as nasty as possible. So the truth about this situation is, don't wait for the guy. Don't wait for him. Don't wait for him. Don't wait for him unless you've verified the credentials of everyone that he's saying he's seeing for therapy and what their approach is. And you can do this online. You can find out these things.
I think it takes a lot to specialize in, although it's always baffled me that couples therapists, just your average couples therapist, can't even spot domestic violence and abuse, let alone a personality disorder. And I think that a lot of couples are at risk of sitting in sessions and saying things and saying their experience and being invalidated. One of the biggest things I hear from clients is, I was in therapy with my partner, or he was in therapy, I've been in therapy, and I've been invalidated. I didn't know I was being abused because the therapist told me I was the issue, or, I needed to change something. I needed to focus. And then they only end up getting more gaslit and more disconnected from themselves, feeling like they're the problem, when really what's going on is this abusiveness that they kind of can't name. So then they get super invalidated.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I can ask it of you personally, and you can answer it as personal as you are comfortable with. Have you ever been to couple therapy with someone you thought was a narcissist?
I have been to couples therapy with a diagnosed narcissist.
And what degrees did your couple therapist have?
A master's degree, I believe, in psychotherapy. However, she's not skilled in treating, but I will say that I am lucky beyond anything I could say, because she recognized that there was a personality disorder in the room and fired us. But I was lucky. I don't hear that very often. Typically what I hear is a master's degree in psychotherapy or social work or whatever, and there's no recognition at all.
And you're in Canada, I believe.
Yes.
In the United States, they don't have to have a master's degree in couple therapy or psychotherapy.
That's wild to me. That's alarming and that's dangerous.
I have couple therapy training that many of the couple therapists my clients have gone to.
That's wild.
They would just fold with a narcissist. I mean, zero. Imagine you're going to your GP, your family doctor, and you need heart surgery. You need open heart surgery. Do you expect your family doctor to be trained in it? Do you really expect a referral to an expert? Do you expect the expert to first be a cardiologist? Yes. Then do you expect them on top of an expert cardiology to have then a further thing in an expert in cardiac, be a diplomat in cardiac surgery or certified before you let them open your heart? So
100%.
Why would you expect less? You wouldn't go to someone not trained as a dentist for dentistry or root canal and let them dig up your mouth. Why are they digging in your brain without credentials?
There's this hope, though, that you're just completely wrong and that it's not abuse, that it's not narcissism, because, of course, the narcissist is convincing you that this is, made up and you're actually the problem, or that they're traumatized. I always find that I'm oversimplifying.
It doesn't matter that they're traumatized. I'm traumatized. You've been traumatized. We've all been traumatized. Now, if we're going to go strictly for trauma, do we have PTSD from our trauma? I had four documented rape attempts. You know what I mean? The last one by the guy that was supposed to be head of my committee for my dissertation, and I had to change dissertation topics. So, yeah, I have trauma. So you tell me you have trauma. So what? Go to trauma therapy for your trauma and come to the right person for your narcissism. They can't treat everything about you.
But it's in the victim's mind, in the wife's mind, I just hear so often, like, it's not abuse, it's just that it's trauma, as in the meanness, the cruelty is created by.
It's abuse by a person who says he was traumatized. Do I know he was traumatized?
But it's still abuse.
I have clients who weren't traumatized. They were narcissists. I have a high-functioning client who was not traumatized by his family. They were just very non-feeling people. The other thing I look for is a lack of emotional empathy.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference between cognitive empathy and emotional empathy. Cognitive empathy, you can stop, think, try and put yourself in the other person's shoes. Some people do better than others. Some people have no idea what it feels like to be in anyone else's shoes. And they have to stop and think about, are they hurting you? How should they say this? Is this a good thing to say to you? And then they think about how you will feel receiving it. And then they stop because you'll feel bad. Does that make sense to you, that the narcissist in your life is going to stop making himself feel good at your expense because he figures out that it's going to make you feel bad? No, he's going to find a reason to justify it. He's going to tell himself a story that you're a bad person and you deserve this abuse and you're lucky to have him. And then he's going to tell you that story and try and convince you of that fact, because that means he doesn't have to change anything. Because if he is flawed, he lacks whole object relations and he can only see himself as all good or all bad. So there's two containers. He's in the all good container that feels good to him. He feels special. He feels unique. He feels perfect. All the bad is projected onto you. If only you would change or keep your mouth shut about what you don't like about him, everything would be fine. You've heard that, right?
Oh, yeah. That distortion is wild, though. They're so black and white, right? And I think it even carries onto, like, you're with me or against me. So if you say, hey, maybe you'd benefit from seeking therapy because you're really mean to me, and you say it's trauma, so please go help yourself, you may as well have told him he's a POS because they take it as such an attack. Like, you think I'm awful. And what I hear a lot is, oh, so you think I'm a piece of shit? Like, that's the amount of women that tell me that exact phrase. So let me ask you, in your experience, do you ever see them be collaborative? Do some people who are narcissistic and truly have the disorder or even the traits, to be fair, do they show up to actually collaborate in therapy? Or do you see this as their stage? Are they performing therapy? And are they performing it for you or their wife or?
Well, I can create a collaboration with a subgroup of narcissists. I'm really good at it. And you have to be, because otherwise you'll get walked over. So I can play good cop and bad cop. But they wouldn't collaborate with me naturally unless there was enormous pressure on them to do so or they found God. I had one person who was a good client because he went back straight to Catholicism, goes to Mass every day, multiple rosaries.
You know, you said something, it's so interesting. It made me think of Dr. Gregory Lester has said that they don't misunderstand right and wrong. They just don't care. And George Simon has actually said the same thing, right? It's like they just don't care. They absolutely know that they're hurting you. They don't care.
Well, it depends which right and wrong you're talking about. The right and wrongs that affect them, they're very sensitive to. Them out of money, cheat them out of time, be mean to them, have the slightest disagreement, they suddenly understand right and wrong really well. What they don't care about is you, your feelings. They don't care deeply about the people that they claim to love because they don't know what intimate love involves. Intimate love involves wanting the best for the person you love, even if that means something you don't want to do. Love is getting up and taking care of your kid in the middle of the night, knowing you have to go to work tomorrow, but your kid is crying and you're not going to leave it there crying alone with a fever because you got to go to work the next day. So you get up and you do what's necessary and you suffer for it, but you know in advance it's worth it to you because your job is to take care of this child.
Yeah. I want to actually take you to this part of the episode called Real Talk from the comment sections. I spend a ton of time on social media talking about abuse recovery and trauma bonds and whatnot, and I get a lot of comments from people. And I get a lot of comments from women who are certainly victims or survivors of this, but I get a lot of comments from people that I think might be narcissists. But that aside, I want to read you 2 comments and get your reaction to these comments and just tell me what you think. Okay. So the first comment is, I used to be a narcissist, but my ex leaving me was the wake-up call that I needed. I'm a totally different person now, and she'll never find anyone who loves her like I did. I know she's going to regret this for the rest of her life.
Okay. So he's splitting. So let's listen to the splitting.
Right.
I am totally now not a narcissist.
Right.
She's going to regret this for the rest of her life. Does he have emotional empathy? He's trying to scare her into coming back to him. Would a loving person try and scare the person they love? Has he changed then? He's trying to scare his mate into coming back with him and telling him is this the usual narcissist thing? Without me, you're nothing. You will regret it for the rest of your life.
Right. So what's changed? I used to be a narcissist and I just sound exactly like one now, even still. Like it's wild. Yeah.
Now, you know that instantaneously, just deciding that you don't want to be a driver like in the US or in Toronto, you want to drive the way they do in the UK. What good will that do you? Will you be instantly able to be a UK driver based on your new desire?
No.
What will you have to do to change your brain?
Well, practice, but apparently at least 1,000 times. But I think more than anything, you have to even have the motivation. And to me, like that's the piece that is missing. You probably see more people who are even remotely motivated or at least pretending to be motivated. Plenty just refuse altogether to even try to get help. They don't even promise change. In fact, my ex-abuser did not promise change. Never, not once. It was my fault. I was wrong to think this was bad to begin with.
He didn't even, and what did you, so I get people in long-term marriages who want to stay married. Everybody, now here's something that you're going to hear, and you may want to end before this, so you tell me, but everybody says all narcissists cheat. They don't.
Agreed. No, they don't.
And not all narcissists want to leave you for someone else. There are lots of areas and cultures and cultural subgroups that support marriage in our society. And if they belong to one of those subgroups, they will be despised if they try and, I see people who play golf at country clubs. You do not bring your girlfriend to your wife's country club.
Of course not.
What would happen if you did? So if you are in a long-term country club marriage, you want to stay married because your failure to stay married and leaving your wife, unless your wife is soundly disliked by every other person at that country club, you will be looked at as a bad guy, as a loser, as somebody who couldn't cut it or is ruining a family. And if you cheat with too many women, you'll be looked at as somebody maybe they don't want in a club because their wives won't talk to that men's girlfriends or wives. And I have met people whose new wife was given the cold shoulder by every other woman in the club.
Yeah. She won't
And that
fit in.
wasn't fun for her.
Yeah.
Or
But
him.
for him, it's the image management, right? Like he doesn't want people to see him as a philanderer
That's right.
or got to be the good country
and some
clubman.
want to get ahead of it and they want to ruin your image before you can ruin theirs. So if they're convinced that you will leave them, they will spread very often secrets about you that are exaggerated, that are from your past, that they swore they would never say, that you told them in moments of trust and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And they will try and get everybody to dislike you intensely and suspect you. And they will call you borderline if you have emotions at all.
Right.
How many of you go to couple therapy and you're the borderline because but this is what I started before, is you're emotionally broken by now. You're crying. You're hurt. They come in calmly. They have no emotional empathy. They're faking it. They're in their narcissistic grandiosity. So their strategy is to remain calm, have you be emotional, have this naive couple therapist who has a master's degree in nothing, individual, not understand anything about personality disorders. They've heard the word borderline. You call your wife borderline. Look how emotional she is. Look how calm I am. This is how she is at home. I'm the abused one.
Narcissistic people, in my experience, it's not that they drive you to actually borderline personality disorder, but they drive you to have these wild swings of emotion because you're constantly being pulled in every direction. So I always sort of joke, like, are you even a victim of narcissistic abuse if you've not, Googled, am I a borderline or am I the narcissist? Because they really convince you that you've lost your mind. I'm going to read you the second comment. This one actually it was brutal. Women just give up on marriage and men way too fast. The cure for narcissism isn't divorce, it's loyalty. Women aren't loyal like they used to be.
Oh, that's silly. That's just silly. Okay, so what does this say? Loyalty doesn't cure narcissism. Does loyalty teach you the drive in the UK? This is why I use the driving example. Does you wanted to learn tuba? Does loyalty give you tuba training?
Nope.
What gives you training? If you want to cure narcissism, you have to find someone that knows how to cure narcissism. Then the person has to go to therapy and be sincerely motivated to do the exercises and think about what they've been asked to reflect on, whether it's a self-reflection based thing, whether it's a tool-based treatment, whatever the basis of the treatment is, they have to do the work or they're not going to learn it. I can't learn to play a tuba from looking at a tuba. I'm sorry. So call me ungifted.
Yeah, you absolutely can't. Loyalty is one of those things too that I think, gosh, we have too much of that, I think about Sandra L. Brown's work and her discussions around the super traits and how victims and survivors tend to be really conscientious and the ties to loyalty. We are way too loyal.
Listen, and who do you think asked you that question? Did the wife and spouse or girlfriend of a narcissist, or would you think that was a male narcissist?
Well, I do know that it was a man who left the comment and had left multiple comments on one of my videos about women and his views on women that were highly misogynistic, and his comments were very combative.
So what evidence do you see of whole object relations in his comments? The first thing I do is I look for evidence of whole object relations. I look for some evidence that he sees the other side's point of view and that he can see both sides and that people aren't entirely evil or wrong for rejecting him. Does he show any evidence of this?
No, that's missing completely.
Okay, so you have a lack of evidence of whole object relations. Do you have any evidence of part object relations where they see people as either all special or all worthless?
All worthless, right? Women collectively
are all worthless.
He's generalizing,
So we have evidence of splitting. This is called splitting informally, and a lack of whole object relations. So we have no evidence so far of whole object relations. We'll just do this scientifically like a therapist would. So I'm looking at the data. I'm not making assumptions. I'm not looking at my intuition. I'm looking at data. You gave me data. So first, we have no evidence of whole object relations under many comments. Second, we have evidence of split object relations. Is that true? Now, do we have evidence of emotional empathy or cognitive empathy here of any kind?
I don't see it.
That's right. And so now we have a lack of emotional and cognitive empathy, or the use of cognitive empathy. We have evidence of splitting in the writing, and we have no evidence of whole object relations. Now, we don't know which personality disorder But the one that's the one that he's writing about and that he's complaining about is narcissism. Well, let's assume that that's his interest and that's the case he's making. I'm not a narcissist. They need to be more loyal. It is their problem. So who would make that case? So that's not a borderline case. That's not a schizoid case. That's not even a closet narcissistic case. That's the case made by an exhibitionist narcissist with an axe to grind and not much else to do with his life. So we're not even dealing with a successful guy. My odds are that a successful guy's at work earning his 100 million like my clients are. My clients are not writing in complaining in my comments section. The guys complaining in my comments section don't have meaningful jobs.
Oh, yeah. But they comment all the time like, I'm a busy, wealthy man with a beautiful wife. You're none of those things, sir. You are none of those things because busy, wealthy men are out making money.
So we have this guy repeat to me what he says.
He says, women just give up on marriage and men way too fast. The cure for narcissism isn't divorce, it's loyalty. Women aren't loyal like they used to be.
Okay, so do we see evidence of blame here?
100%.
How much self-reflection do we see?
Zero.
Okay, so we see, and when they're blaming, who is he blaming?
Women, collectively.
And is he blaming them for the things that he's doing? We have a male figure who's blaming women exclusively for giving up on him for what he has done to them and with them. So based on the data points of diagnosing narcissism, which first we diagnose a personality disorder, which first we diagnose by seeing a lack of whole object relations. We've established that there's no evidence of whole object relations. We do say there's evidence of splitting. Then we go on to the next thing that differentiates narcissists from some of the other personality disorders. The other personality disorders can lose their emotional empathy when they're splitting, and they can have a variable amount of it, but they usually have it when they're not splitting. Does this person show any evidence whatsoever of any type of empathy for anyone but himself?
None.
Now, does he show hatred for any group?
I see that personally, yeah, a hatred of women.
You
absolutely,
called him a
the misogyny.
misogynist. That's someone who hates women by definition. So we see hatred, and do we see nuanced hatred? Like, I don't hate all women. I only hate women who do this, or I only hate the young women now of this group. But my mother was a good person. At least some evidence of being able to see any woman. Do we see evidence of being able to see any female?
No.
As an okay human being, ever?
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
All women.
So what's our diagnosis from your point of view, what you've learned today?
I am diagnosing him with narcissism for sure.
Thank you. And a personality disorder or just narcissistic traits?
Probably a personality disorder.
Now, you already now can tell me you're diagnosing him as difference between traits and personality based on and we have to give it a proviso. In real life, he may be capable of more. We only are diagnosing now based on this written evidence. Okay, are you comfortable with that diagnosis?
I am.
Well, thank you. So you've had your first lesson in the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder.
I love it. We all have had that today. That's perfect. I make jokes often that we all feel like we have a PhD in narcissistic abuse, which I know isn't a real PhD, but we spend so much time learning about narcissism. And I think pop culture learning, right? We're watching YouTube videos and reading books, but certainly not close to the training that you've had and your colleagues have had. But we feel like, oh, that's a narcissist. I know my husband is a narcissist. I know my partner is a narcissist. It feels like it's true. I don't think the label really matters in the sense of the women who are stuck. I think that his intent and the diagnosis is
I have a
irrelevant.
gift for the women who are stuck. I forgot to mention it.
Tell me.
I wrote an article for you guys called Narcissistic Judo. Narcissists are inherently unstable. You've had the bad side of the instability where they turn on you. Initially, they love you, then they turn on you. Well, anything that is inherently unstable, we can turn back. I wrote this article on how to use every narcissistic trait to strategize, to manipulate, to get what you want and some peace and quiet from the narcissist that you cannot get out of your life for one reason or another.
Absolutely. Those little tips and tricks is amazing. I'm going to link all the articles that you talked about in the description so that people can access all of this information and learn more about it. That's incredible. Thank you so much. I hope that people listening, can kind of gather that it's just unbelievably difficult to have any kind of change unless you're really working with the right therapist. And it sounds like there are very few that are qualified therapists, and also very few people who are disordered that are even interested in this kind of change. I think that's the best takeaway.
Yes. And there's one other thing that I did for Psych Today, and I've done it in other places, the 10 stages in the treatment of narcissistic personality disorder.
That it's honestly very profound, right? There's so many variables in whether or not you're going to see even a shred of progress, but it sounds like a long time to hope, and a long time for a victim or a survivor to be stuck and waiting and hoping. And I mean, I have other episodes on how to focus on yourself. So people are going to have to catch those ones, how to live without all of this chaos. But thank you so much for being here today. This was unbelievably insightful. And I hope everybody checks out all of your articles and absolutely reads your book. I'll put the link to your book in the description as well so that people can go out and buy that and read that. Thank you so much for being here.